Celebrity feuds are nothing new, but they aren't created equal. Andy Dick and his entire industry.
It's nothing.
Tyler Perry and good writing.
It's nothing.
The greatest rapper of all time versus the most overrated rapper of all time.
It's nothing.
Mariah Carey and Eminem?
This right here.
So if a bunch of rich people playing insult pong powers your twin subwoofers, this one's for you. Now, Eminem has a notorious track record for beefing with people who, 1, aren't lyrical threats to him, and 2, aren't even rappers. And I'm a huge Eminem fan, so all you brainless stans need to get off his jock. Now, what went on between these two quickly devolved into a game of he said, she said, so let's start with the verifiable information we have. In the first half of 2001, Mariah was fresh out of a 3-year relationship with fellow singer Luis Miguel. She made headlines in the summer after a meltdown in a hotel room. Her relationship woes and general career pressure boiled over, and she wound up breaking dishes up in here all night and causing other damage. The incident landed her in the hospital and placed under psychiatric care. Meanwhile, Eminem was dealing with the divorce as well as the mounting stress of his newfound fame. Not to mention he was catching felonies and lawsuits left and right, even by his wife and mom. Put simply, both he and Mariah were going through it. Now for the unverified stuff. According to Mariah, they first met after she reached out to Eminem's team about collaborating on her new album. As far as I could find, Eminem never refuted this. So while unproven, that at least seems valid. Side note, rumors of her and Luis breaking up were already floating around before it was confirmed, but they were partially fueled by the reports of her working with Eminem. What actually happened in the preceding months is simply unprovable, but here's what each side claims. Mariah says their relationship was friendly but work-oriented, and she never went into much detail about their interactions or really what he was even like to hang out with, let alone why they stopped talking. M, on the other hand, is the king of oversharing. He says they dated for 6 to 7 months and it was a nightmare because she's an alcoholic diva, and that they broke up because the relationship became toxic due to their personalities clashing. Now, despite it being public knowledge that they were at least friends, I could not for the life of me find a single photo of them together. So if he claims they dated for half a year, wouldn't there be at least one picture of them out there? Suspicious. Whatever the truth is, they wound up falling out by early 2002. M threw shots at Mariah on his 4th album, The Eminem Show. There are numerous lines on the song Superman that could be aimed at her, but let's break down the most applicable ones. Ever since I broke up with What's-Her-Face, I'm a different man. I seriously doubt he's talking about Kim here because that would have been 2 relationships back. Don't put out, I'll put you out. Eminem would later claim that he and Mariah only slept together once. What you trying to be, my new wife? What, you Mariah? Fly through twice. Supposedly, Mariah took a private jet to meet with him at his house. Maybe I'll love you one day, maybe we'll someday grow. Till then, just sit your drunk ass on that fucking runway, ho. So, peep game. Reportedly, Mariah's emotional breakdown in the hotel was at least partially alcohol-fueled. Now, some of the blurbs about her being an addict came from unnamed sources, but the fact that she had an alcohol problem wasn't a secret. For example, there's a famous incident where she ran up on Cameron Diaz in a restaurant because Cameron described Mariah's music as torture in an interview. Mariah apparently grabbed her and made a big scene, later admitting that she'd probably had
too many martinis.
For the record, Cameron says it was a joke taken out of context, but either way, it was public knowledge that Mariah loved her wine. This will come up again down the line. The only other track where he mentions Mariah on this album is When the Music Stops. What the fuck you take me for, a joke? You smoking crack? Before I do that, I beg Mariah to take me back. M would later write in his autobiography, with Superman, all I ever hear people talk about is Mariah Carey. Did she inspire it? Yes, she kind of did. I just gotten divorced from Kim and I wasn't going down the same road I'd already been on. This was my way of saying I'm not going to make a love song. Dina Ray, a frequent collaborator of Eminem in those days, would expand on the story of this song many years later. She was like his Skylar Grey back then, except she could actually sing. Dina says that Superman originally featured Mariah, but when Mariah and M fell out, he called Dina to replace her, and obviously changed the lyrics. Regardless, Mariah wasn't about to take this lying down, so she got in the booth. Her 9th album, Charm Bracelet, came out later that year. She responds to Eminem on one song, Clown. Contrasting M's direct name dropping, she never actually confirmed who the song was about. But, I mean, come on. Now, this is the first actual diss track in the beef, which is hilarious. I should have left it at I like your music too, and I should have never called you back when you pursued me. I should have never given you my fucking 2-way. Okay, right off the bat, she's saying M was the one initiating things, and whether it was romantic or not, she regrets getting involved with him. And I know there's gonna be some whippersnappers who don't know what a 2-way pager is, so basically, it was the precursor to cell phone texting. You should have never intimated we were lovers, when you know very well we never even touched each other. So yeah, Mariah says they never did the hanky-panky, the sticky-icky, The Humpty Dumpty, the freaky leak. Who's gonna care when the novelty's over, when the star of the show isn't you anymore? Kind of a clever flip on the title of his new album. I gotta break it to you delicately, dummy. Taking my G5 20 minutes wasn't nothing, but I guess you wouldn't know that's the way I roll. Consequently, now your ego's fully overblown. So, I guess she's basically confirming she did take a jet to visit him. But since, you know, she's Mariah Carey, she flies private all the time. She probably orders a G5 just to get downstairs. A month before Mariah's album dropped, M did an interview with Access Hollywood where he flat out says, "The Mariah thing, those rumors are true and I'm not gonna deny them. We had somewhat of a relationship." On the day of her album release, Mariah did an interview with NBC. When asked about Eminem's comments, her response was a little slippery.
One of the recent relationships, I think, was with Eminem.
Well, you'd have to define relationship.
No, you have to define relationship.
No, because I know what I think a relationship
well, I
is.
wasn't there.
No, but tell me what, in your opinion, what would...
You dated Eminem?
What's a date? Did we ever go anywhere on a date? No.
What was your relationship with
I don't even
Eminem
know.
like?
It certainly wasn't a physical one.
Ask yourself, if someone lied about dating you, would you give an evasive, roundabout answer like this? I'm just saying, this is kind of a weird way to answer the question. You could have just said nah. But to be fair, she did give more direct answers in other interviews.
I talked to him, have spoken to him a few times, whatever, but in terms of me having like an intimate relationship, I can name them all on one hand and he ain't on the hand.
In 2003, Eminem jumped on the Obi Trice song We All Die One Day. I'm a psycho, Mariah ain't got shit on me. When I retire, I'll be spitting baby food on people. At San Isidro Ranch, huddled up next to her with Hello Kitty slippers on, humping her legs. During Eminem's 2005 tour, he played supposed recordings of Mariah from their studio sessions.
I told you to stop following me.
There was skepticism of whether this was actually her. Some people think it was just Dina doing a Mariah impression for the joke. But like most of this stupid saga, it remains unconfirmed. 3 things are possible here. 1, it's not Mariah and he doesn't have any recordings of her. 2, he does have recordings of Mariah but had Dina re-record them to avoid a lawsuit. 3, they're real. Wikipedia says the recordings actually came from interviews, but I found no evidence of this and the citation link doesn't even mention it. This is why I go to multiple sources for my research. Anyway, by this point, Mariah pretty much just ignored him and kept making hits. A fact which may have motivated him to write his most vulgar lyrics about her yet. On Jimmy Crack Corn off of 2000's The Re-Up, Eminem spits the following. "Meanwhile, your mind's on us like mine's on Mariah, and y'all are just like her, you're all fucking liars. But I'll just keep fucking you like I fucked her, riding the X with KY, yes sir."
Oh my God!
The beef went quiet until May of 2009. Eminem dropped his 6th album, Relapse, and on it was a little song called Bagpipes from Baghdad. The first verse starts out like this. "Locked in Mariah's wine cellar, all I had for lunch was bread, wine, more bread, wine, and Captain Crunch. Red wine for breakfast and for brunch. Mariah, whatever happened to us? Why do we have to break up? All I asked for was a glass of punch." So yeah, right out the gate, twisting the knife on her wine habit. You see, I never really asked for much. I can't imagine what's going through your mind after such a nasty breakup with that Latin hunk, Luis Miguel. Nick Cannon better back the fuck up. I neglected to mention, but the year prior, Mariah got married to actor, comedian, rapper, poet, TV host. Yeah, he does a lot. Nick Cannon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not playing, I wanna back you, punk. This is Hello Kitty bedspread, satin funk. This is the second time that Ems brought up Hello Kitty while dissing Mariah. Some might view this as a smoking gun that they really dated, but to be fair, it was no secret that Mariah was a massive Hello Kitty fan, even in the early 2000s. I mean, I really want you bad, you Nick, you had your fun. I've come to kick you in your sack of junk. I'm trying to remain impartial, but revisiting this track is getting kinda uncomfortable. Like, it's possible that Mariah lied, but Nick didn't do anything to you. I ain't playing no fucking more. Nick Cannon, you prick, I wish you luck with the fucking whore. Every minute there's a sucker born. The disses on this song crossed multiple lines. They're noticeably the most angry and pointed so far. It seems he was genuinely pissed that Mariah got married. Not healthy at all. Nick Cannon responded with a lengthy blog post writing in part, "Not only has his music not evolved, but homeboy is still obsessed with my wife. What type of grown-ass man lies about getting with a chick? Am I gonna battle Eminem and try to out-rap him? No, that would be stupid." I'm putting this out there now. Marshall Mathers, you need to holler at me on some grown man shit. Man to man, let's meet up and deal with this like adults. Em was asked about the situation in a radio interview and gave a sarcastic response. "I had no idea he was going to take it like he took it. He's supposed to defend his wife and I expected him to do that, but at the end of the day, it's a song. What I actually meant to say is I wish them the best." That's the whole message of the record. Nick wasn't the only one who came to Mariah's defense though. Busta Rhymes, who, interestingly enough, was cool with everybody involved, commented on the matter to Wrap Up magazine. He said, "Leave Mariah Carey alone. That's my friend, man. I don't know what their situation was, so I can't really speak on it. I don't even understand why this shit is resurfacing again, but for whatever it's worth, I just hope they can be cool." A month later, Mariah drops Obsessed, the first single ahead of her 12th album, Memoirs of an Imperfect Angel. Though she still never mentions him by name, this song is 100% a diss to Eminem. And after Bagpipes from Baghdad, who could blame her? It's also worth mentioning that during the intro, co-producer The Dream does ad-libs calling back to M's song The Real Slim Shady. Mariah says, "It must be the weed, it must be the E, 'cause you poppin', heard you get it poppin'." I was impressed by the wordplay in this song. She doesn't usually drop lyrics like this. "It Must Be the Weed" sounds like a reference to the Relapse song Must Be the Ganja, while E could simply refer to ecstasy as well as be a slick little nod to Eminem's stage name, plus the double entendre with poppin' meaning popular and also popping pills because he just did a stint in rehab for exactly that. "Why you so obsessed with me? Boy, I wanna know. Lying that you're sexing me when everybody knows. It's clear that you're upset with me. Does this need to be explained? Got you all fired up with your Napoleon complex." Right, so Eminem's kinda short. Not that short, but shorter than Nick Cannon, telling the world how much you miss me, but we never were, so why you tripping? I mean, his reaction would be childish even if they were a thing. I know I said I try to be impartial, but screw it. It's my video, I'll add commentary if I want to. This man was 36, throwing a tantrum over a woman he supposedly dated for less than a year, 8 years later, and a full year after she'd gotten married. I'll say it right now, I think Relapse is dope, and while Bagpipes from Baghdad was never one of my favorites, I at least found it amusing, but I'm not about to say the Nick and Mariah lines aren't embarrassing. The music video for Obsessed features Mariah in a dual role as a stalker, and everyone and their mom knew who this was aimed at. Well, I didn't. I didn't know the history, so I was just like, why is everyone saying it's Eminem? He doesn't have a goatee. Eminem commonly dressed up as people he was dissing in music videos, so Mariah flipped the script on him in a way, which was honestly a very hip-hop thing to do. About the song, Nick Cannon sat down with MTV News and said the following. To be completely honest, she did the record because she's a huge fan of this movie Mean Girls, and there's a line in the movie where one of the girls is like, "Why are you so obsessed with me?" But you know, art imitates life. If somebody's out there and you feel like you might have been obsessed, then the record's about you. Some people also thought the song About My Face was about him as well because of this line. "No, you ain't getting it, no, you ain't hitting it, and no, you ain't a rapper, so you need to stop spitting it." But I think it's just regular wordplay. The song itself is about a failed relationship, and Mariah has consistently denied that she and Eminem were ever a thing. Speaking of which, he was livid when Obsessed came out, and this is where things took a demented turn. He jumps back in the booth and records The Warning, a straight up diss track. Not a couple lines on an unrelated song, just 3 solid minutes of hating. Since this whole thing is a diss, I'm just gonna go over the most notable lines. "Wow, Mariah, didn't expect you to go balls out. Shut the fuck up before I put all them phone calls out. Enough dirt on you to murder you. This is what the fuck I do. Mariah, it ever occur to you that I still have pictures? However you prefer to do." On top of the vocals from the Superman session, Eminem claims to have phone recordings and private photos of Mariah, seemingly alluding to them being of an obscene nature. Second base, what the f you tell Nick Punkin? The second week we were dry humping, that's gotta count for something. Listen girly, surely you don't want me to talk about how I nutted early cause I ejaculated prematurely and bust all over your belly and you almost started hurling and said I was gross. Go get a towel, your stomach's curling. Interesting tidbit about these lines. In 2020, hip-hop icon and longtime friend of Mariah, Da Brat, made some statements regarding Mariah's upcoming memoir. Let's get this clear. When y'all read, y'all will see that he prematurely ejaculated when they had all of their clothes on because he was excited that he was with Mariah. There was no sex. Now, I have to imagine she checked with Mariah before saying this, but it turns out there's actually no mention of Eminem in the book. Maybe she changed her mind and took that part out. But as it stands, I'm willing to conclude this is something that probably happened. After all, the king of oversharing. On the second verse, he weaves in supposed vocals from the studio sessions with Mariah, but for the record, it's never been confirmed this is actually her. "It cuts like a knife when I tell you get a life, but I'm moving on with mine, Nick, cause that's your wife. Well, tell her to shut her mouth and I'll leave her alone. If she don't stick to the script, then I'ma just keep going." And that was it. He didn't make another song about her and she didn't make another song about him. The beef was over. Though Mariah didn't respond, her husband would castigate Eminem on his blog and Twitter. I wasn't able to find the original post, even with the Wayback Machine, but I remember he kept trying to make it a racial issue. This was not a black versus white thing. This was your wife and Eminem. I didn't like how Nick tried to galvanize the black community against Eminem like that. He had every right to be mad, but no, don't try to make it the black community's problem that your celebrity wife has bad blood with another celebrity. Regardless, M never responded. A year later in 2010, Eminem released his 7th album, Recovery, and he throws a shot at Mariah on the first verse of the album. So puff the boot or light a bong, but take a look at Mariah next time I inspire you to write a song. Nick Cannon definitely caught wind of this, because 3 months later he dropped a track of his own, I'm a Slick Rick, a track with some very strange choices. I still don't know why, but he used the beat for Teach Me How to Dougie, kept part of the chorus, and interpolated lyrics from Slick Rick on the show. This is hardly even a diss track. It's a Slick Rick tribute song with a few lines about Eminem. He had to be smoking crack, weed, and PCP to come up with this. I don't know if I should hit him cause he's feminine, Slick. Excuse me, Eminem, why you lying on your dick? I tried to holla at you at the BET show, but you were scared of the trouble, more security than the Pope. It's true, they were both at the BET Awards that year, and I don't doubt that Nick tried to confront Eminem, but this line doesn't work. M is a global megastar, of course he rolls with security. While you was in your bubble, I was rolling dolo. Anytime your face is in the streets, it's them signs for promo. Again, Eminem having tight security makes absolute sense. It'd be the pinnacle of stupidity for him to go out in public alone. I like the second line though. It'd be clever if it were actually applicable. Shortly after this, Nick challenged Eminem to a boxing match, posting on his website, "The time has come. Boys talk the talk, but men walk the walk." Nick has laid down the challenge to meet Eminem in the ring. And to draw Slim Shady out of hiding, Nick has decided to do it all for charity. He even made a Facebook page to promote the event, writing, "I've been boxing for 15 years. If he wants to get in the ring with me, I'm ready. We'll do it in the suburbs in Michigan, make him feel more at home." Side note, I could swear I saw an article in 2010 that said Mariah was granted some sort of court order against Eminem. It was something like he wasn't allowed to mention her in his work for 10 years or whatever. But I found no such thing when researching. Maybe it was from a joke news site or some douchebag made it up and put it on Wikipedia. My brain didn't just invent this, I saw it somewhere. Guess I slipped into a parallel universe. As you might have guessed, M never responded to the boxing challenge, but Nick would mention him again at the very next BET Awards in 2011. It was during a Real Housewives parody called Real Husbands of Hollywood, not to be confused with House Husbands of Hollywood, an actual reality show that came out 2 years prior. Whole other video, back to the subject.
I know who you won't fight. Eminem.
Hey, look, tired of this. I will whoop Eminem's. Alright, I ain't scared of him. Matter of fact, I'll whoop any white boy name who start with him. Macaulay Culkin, Matthew McConaughey, Melanie Griffin. When a man talk about your wife and you can't really rap, what you supposed to do?
This was obviously for laughs, but it's relevant, so there you go. Nick and Mariah got divorced in 2016. And a few months prior, Nick put out a track called Divorce Papers. Among other things, he reflected on the Eminem beef. Haters in my comments saying Eminem the greatest. Shh, I agree. Where you at though? I'm a fan, yo. But first and foremost, I'm a man though. That 2010 bullshit, been let that go. Stand flow. Anyway, Nick actually annotated a couple lines on the song's Genius page, stating that he's a fan of Eminem and feels he can relate to him now. But the divorce must have broken something inside him, because for the next 3 years, he consistently threw shots at M despite claiming to be over the beef, and also no longer being married to Mariah. In fact, his obsession with Eminem outlived Eminem's obsession with Mariah. In December of 2019, M finally responded to Nick on the Fat Joe and Dre song Lord Above. I want to emphasize he hadn't said a word about Nick or Mariah for 9 years. I know me and Mariah didn't end on a high note, but that other dude's whipped. That pussy got him neutered. Tried to tell him this chick's a nut job before he got his jewels clipped. Not true, you called her a lying alcoholic whore and said you wanted her back. Almost got my caboose kicked? Fool quick, you not gonna do shit. I'd let her chop my balls off too for I lost to you, Nick. And just like that, the gloves were off. Nick jumped right in the booth and grabbed some battle rappers he works with on Wild 'N Out. I gotta talk about this, that's random. These dudes have nothing to do with the conflict. This isn't a label-wide beef like back in the day, this is between two guys. Mariah isn't even involved anymore. He also got Suge Knight to do an intro and outro from a prison phone, which, sure, whatever. The song's called The Invitation. I f with crack, but the white boy, he f with crack, pills and smack, shady bout to relapse. Eminem's old drug habit is low-hanging fruit, but he was almost 12 years clean by this point, so it's not even relevant. Plus, he literally named one of his albums Relapse and made light of his addiction throughout the song. What are you doing? Call Kim, somebody get Haley, and that other kid you raising that ain't even your baby. Everybody knows Eminem is very protective of his daughter Haley, so that's low-hanging fruit as well. But he and Kim had been divorced for 13 years by this point. Plus, you adopted a child is not a burn, Nick. What are you doing? Took a page out of Drake book. This might get a Grammy.
Too easy.
My baby mama killed you off a decade ago. He's got a point here. Whatever happened in 2001, Mariah moved on with her life and had consistent success, and she handled that messy high school drama with more grace than anybody involved. I called Joe to set you up and you fell for the job. Slim won't show for the video because he's terrified of my squad. So, Lord Above was supposed to have a music video? But Nick showed up with his entourage to confront Eminem and the shoot was canceled? That's a whole move. That video would have been tight. And because of your ego, you ruined it for the artists and the fans. Not to mention the crew who were hired to work on it. I heard your chauffeur got a video of you sucking a You paid him off, then laid him off. Now who really the op? This was the only line Eminem bothered responding to. On Twitter, no less. And it was pretty funny. Anyway, if you expected me to cover the features, you're out of your mind. It's bad enough I had to subject myself to Nick's verse. Nick got mad that Eminem didn't record a response within 12 hours, so the very next day he put out another diss, Pray For Him. It has verses from the same battle rappers as before, plus Conceited, and the beat is a trap remix of the Jay-Z and Eminem song Renegade, which M made the beat for. And whether he was being cheeky or lazy, Nick's verse is also an interpolation of Eminem's on that song. You used to be in a position to talk to kids and they listen. Now you a politician. You voted for Trump, admit it. It's ironic that Nick is using the same desperate tactic Eminem used to try and get Trump to respond. Just saying whatever you think would outrage him.
I think that he did that expecting a response. And then he said I was a little upset I didn't get a response. I can understand how he felt that way because Donald Trump responds to everyone.
Now you're debated, disputed, hated. True. And viewed in America as a motherfucking drug addict. You'll never be a legend. You ain't no lyricist. That's just, all three of those statements are false. You dropped the ball so hard. I'm honestly disappointed because there were legitimate things to criticize Eminem for. His over-reliance on puns, rapping on generic trap beats that don't suit his style. Good guy and nice guy. Not working with Ludacris. Seriously, this man can get a feature from anyone in the industry and he goes with Young M.A. and Ed Sheeran. Eminem still didn't respond, so Nick got even more desperate, if you can believe that's possible, and proceeded to kamikaze dive on him 9 days later, putting out one more diss track, The Invitation Cancelled. I guess you can cancel an invitation if the invitee just laughs at you. However, in a last-ditch attempt to win the now one-sided battle, Nick took a slightly different approach.
Black girls are bitches. Black girls are dumb. What? Black girls are bitches. Black girls are dumb.
He sampled vocals from a 1989 Eminem song called Foolish Pride, where he disses black girls because a black girl dumped him. We have to take a small detour here, because the lore behind this cannot be glossed over. This stunt might have damaged Eminem's public image if Benzino hadn't already tried it 16 years prior. And that dude held a press conference and shipped seedy snippets of the song with his magazine, to which Eminem had this to say. The tape was something I made out of anger, stupidity, and frustration when I was a teenager. I'd just broken up with my girlfriend who was African American and reacted like the angry, stupid kid I was. I hope people will take it for the foolishness that it was, not for what somebody is trying to make it into today. While I think common sense tells you not to judge a man by what he may have said when he was a boy, I will say it straight up. I am sorry I said those things when I was 16, and I don't want to let anybody turn this into an opportunity to promote their own bullshit agenda. He'd expand on the topic the following year on his 5th album, Encore, rapping on Yellow Brick Road. I was supposed to dump her, but she dumped me for this black guy. And that's the last I ever seen or heard or spoke to the old Foolish Pride girl. But I've heard some people say they heard the tape and it ain't that bad. But it was. I singled out a whole race, and for that I apologize. I was wrong, cause no matter what color a girl is, she's still a hoe. Just in case you forgot who you were listening to. You might think Nick got no props for digging this up. And you'd be right. Foolish Pride is a messed up, racist, and yes, foolish song. But given all the other information, I think it's fair to say Eminem isn't racist. If you disagree, you can rest knowing Eminem spent the rest of his career dissing white women. So let's get to this diss track. You the KKK of this generation. Oh KKK, did I take it too far? Nick. I don't give a fuck if his ass was young. Can't let that slide, that's on my son. Why didn't you say this in 2003 then? It was big news, I'm sure you heard it. Anyway, this whole track is pretty much Nick saying Eminem is secretly David Duke. Fun fact, Eminem has only ever signed one white artist. I know the fan in me is showing, but the points Nick brings up are just so stupid. It's got me going off script. I am in so much pain having to listen to these songs. Somebody help me! A month later, Nick Cannon released an EP called The Miseducation of the Negro You Love to Hate. On the song Used to Look Up to You, he says, out here tweeting like they been a savage, dick riding Lil Marshall Mathers. This seems to be referencing a tweet made by Joyner Lucas. To be honest, I thought this was lame on Joyner's part. You're not even involved, and I guarantee none of these dudes care enough to do a Nick Cannon posse diss. Shout out to Joyner though. On the very next track, Madoff, Nick mentions Eminem again. They say beware of Marshall Mathers, I'ma watch him like my paddock. That's honestly a pretty funny visual. But 3 tracks later on Cut 'Em Off, he seemed to indicate he was moving on. Eminem beef and I should ignore it. That's what they told me when I was warned. Putting my time on something more important, bread on my mind, my money is corporate. You know what, I like these lines. That's great, do something more productive. Interestingly enough though, Eminem's 11th album, Music to Be Murdered By, would come out just 4 days later, and he referenced Nick on No Regrets. For some adversaries I carry big guns, so some targets will get the kill shot, some might just barely nick them. Eminem seriously overdoes the puns, but I like this one. And that was it for a while. Nick would speak to Bootleg Kev 3 years later and state that he thinks he won the beef because M never responded, but that he actually loves Eminem and that the diss tracks were for fun as well as to promote Wild 'N Out. He also acknowledged that he was pushing it with the second track and drove himself off a cliff with the third one, remarking that he should have stopped after Pray For Him. Eminem was quiet until 2024 with the release of his 12th album, The Death of Slim Shady, which should have been called the Slim Shady LP 2, but that's another story. He mentions Nick on Guilty Conscience 2, which should have been called My Darling 2, but that's another story. Christopher, MGK, Nick, and for Limp Bizkit and them, Midges and Ben, Zeno in addition to him, Will Smith, and to Cannabis. If you're listening, this is the end. While it is a concept album, I don't doubt that he was feeling done with the drama and ready to move on. I wasn't able to find a response from Nick, but given what he said in that Bootleg Kev appearance, it seems both men have put the beef behind him. I guess the only thing left is to offer my own assessment of why all this happened in the first place. Why would Eminem lie about dating Mariah? Why would Mariah lie about not dating Eminem? Well, I think the answer is pretty simple. It was just a misunderstanding. Remember, Eminem is the king of oversharing. He's never been the type to mince words, especially about details of his personal life that no one needs to hear. However, I don't think Mariah's lying either. Now, it's true that she would have had motivation to. A relationship with Eminem could have harmed her image, and her fans would have been outraged. But having reviewed the whole debacle, Occam's razor tells me they most likely had different ideas about the nature of their relationship. There may have been mixed signals somewhere. Maybe things went a bit beyond just friends, but Mariah saw it as non-exclusive, and they never firmly established what they were to each other. I doubt we'll ever really know. At the end of the day, whatever did or didn't happen between them was never anyone's business, so Eminem gets the blame for running his mouth in the first place. But regardless, they're both incredibly talented artists who've had insanely successful careers. It's just a shame they never finished the songs they worked on. Oh, and that they beefed in the first place.